We are especially honored and delighted to welcome a learned, eloquent, articulate, inspiring, and charismatic personality as our chief guest, the Honorable Member of Parliament Lok Sabha from Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Welcome, sir, and thank you for your gracious presence here today. India International Bullion Summit is India's ultimate and most comprehensive platform for networking, dialogue, direction, and decision-making in the bullion and jewelry industry, a forum where conversations translate into action. After the phenomenal success of 10 powerful editions, IIBS 11 is finally upon us, the most eagerly awaited confluence of the industry during the year. Over the course of the summit, we shall have experienced insightful panel discussions, interactive sessions, product launches, joint ventures, business showcases, networking dinners, award nights, and live entertainment, all crafted to engage, energize, and elevate. From bullion and jewelry leaders to mining and refining giants, central and bullion banks, commodity exchanges, logistics leaders, market analysts, and government leadership, the world of bullion is here under one roof. I would like to invite all our dignitaries on stage. I shall request National President Mr. Prithviraj Kothari and National Vice President Mrs. Aksha Kamboj to kindly accompany on stage our distinguished chief guest, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Honorable Member of the Lok Sabha, Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala, Mr. David Tait, Chief Executive Officer, World Gold Council, Mr. Jignesh Shah, Mentor and Coach, IGM India Gold Metaverse, and Founder, MCX, DGCX, IEX, SMX, MCX-SX, and ODIN, Mr. Sriram Krishnan, Chief Business Development Officer, National Stock Exchange, and Shivanshu Mehta, Senior Vice President and Head, Bullion Multi-Commodity Exchange of India Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, could I request all our dignitaries to kindly take the stage. Mr. Prithviraj Kothari and Mrs. Aksha Kamboj to kindly escort on stage our distinguished chief guest, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Honorable Member of Parliament, Lok Sabha, Mr. David Tait, Chief Executive Officer, World Gold Council, Mr. Jignesh Shah, Mentor and Coach, IGM India Gold Metaverse, Mr. Sriram Krishnan, Chief Business Development Officer, National Stock Exchange, and Shivanshu Mehta, Senior Vice President and Head, Bullion Multi-Commodity Exchange of India. May I request all our dignitaries to kindly light the ceremonial lamp, symbolizing the knowledge, the enlightenment, and the brilliance of our industry. We at IBJA are delighted and proud that women are more and more finding their voices and assuming leadership roles in the industry. In fact, it is at the special request of National President Shri Prithviraj Kothari that for the first time ever in all editions of IIBS, that we shall have a lady deliver the welcome address. Ladies and gentlemen, to welcome us to IIBS 11, please put your hands together and welcome Mrs. Aksha Kamboj, National Vice President, India Bullion and Jewelers Association. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Aksha Kamboj.
Hello and good morning to all our esteemed guests, international delegates, and fellow members of the Bullion fraternity. On behalf of the IBJA, I would like to extend my warmest welcome to our chief guest, Shri Shashi Tharoor ji, member of Lok Sabha, Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. Mr. David Tait, Chief Executive Officer, World Gold Council. Mr. Jignesh Shah, Mentor and Coach, IGM. Founder of MCX, DGCX, IEX, SMX, MCX-SX, ODIN. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Shivanshu Mehta, the Multi-Commodity Exchange of India Limited. Mr. Sriram Krishnan, Chief Business Development Officer, National Stock Exchange. It is with immense pride and a profound sense of gratitude that I stand before you today here to inaugurate the 11th edition of the Indian International Bullion Summit, IIBS 11. As we gather here at the beautiful Westin Powai, we are not just attending a conference, we are celebrating a legacy. We are celebrating the resilience, the innovation, and the undying spirit of India's bullion and jewelry industry. For over a century, since our establishment in 1919, the Indian Bullion and Jewelers Association, IBJ, has stood as the apex body for this trade. We have weathered storms, navigated policy shifts, and embraced modernization, all while keeping our core values intact. Today, IBJ is not just an association, it is a voice of the industry. From being the only association recognized by the Reserve Bank of India for publishing the benchmark gold rates, to being a pivotal force in policy advocacy with the Ministry of Finance and Commerce. Our role has always been to protect, promote, and progress the trade. But our role goes beyond advocacy. We are enablers. We are here to ensure that every jeweler, every bullion dealer, and every artisan has the tools they need to survive and thrive in a changing world. Whether it is fighting for removal of unfavorable duties, assisting in implementation of hallmarking, or creating platforms like this summit for networking and growth, IBJA remains the steadfast guardian of all the interests. This year, our gathering is more significant than ever. We are seeing a shift, a transformation from traditional trade to a digitally integrated, transparent, and global powerhouse. And leading this charge is IBJA. One of our most groundbreaking achievements in the recent times, which I must highlight today, is the launch and the massive success of the IBJA Verified Tag. In an era where digital presence is non-negotiable, trust is our most valuable currency. But with the digital boom comes the shadow of impersonation and fraud. We asked ourselves, how do we protect our members and their customers in this online space? The answer was the IBJA Verified Tag. This is not just a digital sticker, it is a seal of authenticity. It is a promise. When a customer sees the IBJA verified tag on our social media or website, they know they are dealing with a legitimate, trustworthy, and verified entity. It separates the genuine stakeholders from the shadows. It gives our members a blue tick of credibility that instantly elevates their brand value. Today, I urge every member who has not yet adopted this to please do so. Let us build a digital ecosystem so robust that the world looks at Indian jewelers with unquestionable trust. The success of IIBS 11 is a testament to our unity. I am thrilled to announce that this year we have broken our own records. We have over 1,000 delegates participating from every corner of India and across the globe. We have curated a bustling exhibition area with more than 30 exhibitors, booths, and showcasing their finest innovations, services, and products that our industry has to offer. This massive scale would not have been possible without the unwavering support of our more than 50 partners who have stood by us to make this event a grand reality. To our partners, exhibitors, and delegates, a big thank you. Your presence here confirms that the Indian bullion industry is vibrant, hungry for growth, and ready to lead. As we celebrate our gathering here in Mumbai, we must also look beyond our borders. The Indian bullion industry is no longer just a domestic story. It is a global narrative. India is a market mover, and it is time we assert our position on the international stage. It gives me great pleasure to officially announce our next major international step. Mark your calendars for the Global Gold and Precious Metals Conference from 4th to 6th of May 2026 at Dubai. This will not just be a conference, it will be a global buyer-seller business forum. We are taking the IBJ network to a global level. In closing, I want to leave you with a thought. The metal we deal in, gold, is tested by fire. It is hammered, melted, and molded, yet it never loses its value. It only shines brighter. Similarly, our industry has faced the fire of regulatory changes, market volatility, and global uncertainties. But like the gold we cherish, we have emerged purer, stronger, and more valuable. Let IIBS 11 be the place where new partnerships are forged, where new ideas are born, and where the future of our industry is written. I wish you all a productive, profitable, and inspiring summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Aksha Kamboj, for your warm and cordial welcome and for so beautifully setting the tone for this richly rewarding summit ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, John Maxwell has said, a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, shows the way. I give you a leader who has done all this and more. To deliver the presidential address, please welcome Mr. Prithviraj Kothari, National President, India Bullion and Jewelers Association. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Prithviraj Kothari.
Good morning, Jai Jinendra. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed dignitaries, fellow members of the IIBS, veterans of the trade and dynamic youth of our bullion industry, and my brother and sisters from the bullion trade. I would like to extend my warmest welcome to Chief Guest, Shri Shashi Tharoor ji, member of Lok Sabha, Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. Thank you for coming, sir. Mr. David Tait, Chief Executive Officer, World Gold Council. Thank you for coming. Mr. Jignesh Shah. Jignesh bhai is back. Mr. Jignesh Shah, member and coach, IGM, India Gold Metaverse, founder of MCX, DGCX, IEX, SMX, MCX-SX, and ODIN, and many more coming. Mr. Sriram Krishnan, Chief Business Development Officer, National Stock Exchange. Thank you for coming, sir. and Shivanshu Multi-Commodity Exchange Limited. Thank you, Shivanshu. Standing here today, I am reminded of the journey we have taken together from the narrow, bustling lanes of Javeri Bazaar to this grand stage where the world's bullion leaders convene our industry had not just traveled distance, it has traveled through time. We have evolved from a sector defined by informal trade to one that is becoming the benchmark of global transparency and regulation. As we gather in February 2026, we found ourselves at a pivotal moment. The world outside is volatile, shifting with geopolitical winds and economic tremors. Yet inside this hall, we represent the one asset that has stood firm when currencies falter and markets tremble. It's a gold. Why do we gather here year after year? It is not merely to discuss profits. It is because gold is not just a commodity in India, it's our cultural currency and our economic backbone. In India, gold is the first gift to a newborn and the last legacy passed down to the next generation. It is woven into the fabric of our weddings, our festivals, and our prayers. It is the Sridhan, the financial empowerment of our women. India's substance household holding of gold and to be lesser extent silver serve as a robust financial safety net that enhance the economic resilience, prosperity, and preparedness for an evolving global order. With an estimated more than 30,000 tons of gold owned privately, far exceeding many central banks' reserves, that asset act as a hedge against inflation, currency devaluation, and economic volatility, allowing families to liquidate them during crisis without relying solely on formal banking system or government interventions. This decentralized wealth not only bolsters customer confidence and spending power, but also contributes to prosperity by providing intergenerational saving and fueling a thriving jewelry and investment sector that support millions of jobs. In context of shifting new world order marked by geopolitical tension, trade disruption, and moves towards de-dollarization, these holdings position India advantageously as gold status as a timeless store of value strengthness, national financial sovereignty, reduced vulnerability to international sanction or flat currency fluctuation, and complement the Reserve Bank of India growing official gold reserve to foster long-term economic stability and strategic autonomy. In these uncertain times, gold has once again proved its mettle. It acts as the ultimate hedge against inflation and currency debasement. When the dollar wavers, gold studies the ship. For our rural economy, which hold a significant portion of our national stock, gold is the bank that never closes. The world around is shifting. We see geopolitical tensions, redrawing maps, and the economic uncertainties shaking the foundation of major currencies. In the storm, gold has remained the anchor. We are seeing price that we are once considered aspiration now becoming the new floor. Volatility in gold is the new normal. We are seeing a fundamental shift where gold is moving from being a saver asset to a strategic asset. However, the way we trade gold, the perceived gold is changing fundamentally. We are witnessing the digitalization of trust. The young investor today does not always want a locker full of coin. They want the stability of gold with the speed of UPI. In 2025 alone, we saw the digital gold transaction via UPI nearly triple. This is not a threat of our physical market. It's an expansion of it. We must embrace a physical ecosystem where physical gold is vaulted. At IIBS, we are committed to ensuring that the digital transition is built on the same pillar of purity and trust that our physical market demands. If the gold is digital, the trust must be physical. Success of gold ETF and digital gold is the result of trust. Gold has an investor's mind. Friends, the world looks to India not just a consumer of gold, but as a leader in the gold ecosystem. We have a largest consumer base, the finest craftsmen, and now a rapidly modernizing infrastructure. I know that what many of you are thinking, the price is high, but the consumer is hesitant. We are facing a unique challenge. When gold touches new peaks, our inventory values rises, but the footfall of many jewelers often goes down. The working capital required for jewelers to sustain business today is double. Jewelers to sustain business today is double what was the 5 years ago. I understand the pressure this put on your margins and your peace of mind. But remember, the Indian consumer eventually absorbs the price. It is a matter of patience. However, in the waiting period, we cannot afford to lose our greatest assets, our karigars, artisans. The success of every jeweler comes from the skill of these artisans. When business slow down due to high rates, the assist cost to cut seems to be the labor, but that is a mistake. If we lose our skilled workforce today, we will not have the hand to craft our jewelry. When the demand returns tomorrow, we must support them now. We must treat them not as a contractors, but as a partner in our survival. If the bullion industry is the body, the karigar is the heart. Let's us ensure the heart keeps beating strong even when the market is testing us. Let's use this summit to force new partnerships, embrace these new technologies, and continue to uphold the trust that millions of Indians place in us. In closing, I want to leave you with this thought. Gold is an ancient asset, but we cannot be ancient in our thinking. We must be modern in our method, ethical in our practices, and united in our voice. Let's work with the government to create a cleaner, more complete industry. Let's adopt technology, not because we have to, but because it empowers us. Friends, the gold era is not defined just by high prices. It is defined by high standards. My vision for the future of the Indian bullion industry is simple living, high thinking, and digital execution. Let's continue to connect, share ideas, and build not just businesses, but a legacy that shines as bright as the metal we trade. Let's move forward with one foot rooted in our glorious tradition and the other stepping boldly into the digital future. Thank you, and I wish you all a productive summit. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Mr. Prithviraj Kothari for giving us those insights into the Indian and global bullion industry and for voicing our shared aspirations for the roadmap ahead. I'd now like to invite Mr. Shivanshu Mehta, Senior Vice President and Head, Bullion Multi-Commodity Exchange of India Limited, MCX, to share his thoughts with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Shivanshu Mehta.
All the dignitaries present on the dais, our Honorable Guest of Honor, Shri Shashi Tharoor ji, Member of Parliament, and of whom I am an ardent fan. I've been an ardent fan always. Jignesh Shah, who is the founder of IGM and of many more things, and an inspiring leader to all of you, but to me personally, he has been an inspiration. Shri Prithviraj Kothari, with whom I love to work very closely. MCX loves to work very closely with the IBJA to work or strive continuously for the benefit of the bullion and jewelry industry. My dear friend Sriram from the NSE, who also represents various boards along with me. It's a pleasure to always interact with him. David Tait, the CEO, World Gold Council, who's also an equally inspiring leader. Ma'am Aksha Kamboj, who has taken the lead in the IBJA and what we saw yesterday with the women fraternity of the IBJ and the jewelers coming forth and leading the fray, especially when it comes to jewelry and jewelry design. I welcome all of you, members of the Bullion and Jewelry fraternity, sitting here in this August gathering. And I take this moment to reinforce the commitment that MCX has always had for this special industry, and the journey of MCX can never be in any way different from the journey of the bullion and jewelry industry of India, I dare say. And I think this is probably the best time to be holding this conference, as gold actually challenges our imagination and actually asks us to fit gold into any one paradigm, whether currency or a hedge against inflation or a safe haven asset or a hedge against geopolitical turmoil and macroeconomic volatility. All of it and more is playing at this very moment. And I think a point of inflection may actually be past us, as gold has continued to surprise us ever since 2020, when the COVID era started. And along with this kind of movement also comes a lot of price volatility and a lot of risk management need, which the bullion and jewelry industry faces. And that is where the role of an exchange like MCX comes in, to be a partner to this industry as it faces and mitigates this price risk by the use of exchange-traded derivatives. It is also a humble honor for me to share with you that MCX today is the largest global exchange by the number of contracts traded in commodity options. And I share this as an achievement of this industry and market participants at large. MCX, along with this industry and in this journey of more than 23 years, has seen the advent of futures, indices, options. We've also paved the way for the domestic gold to be delivered in the same contracts as the LBMA gold, by introducing the MCX good delivery norms in line with the Atmanirbhar Bharat mission in 2021. And I am happy to share that as a start, about more than 10,000 crores worth of gold has already been delivered via that route. We are happy to share with you that today, on an average, $35 billion of trade takes place in the futures and options of bullion on MCX. Of late, we've seen recent highs of more than 23 lakh crores hit by bullion options in a single day, and about 3 lakh crores by bullion futures in a single day. Today, your exchange has seen deliveries of close to 6,000 tons of silver and about 160 tons of gold since inception. All this is just another measure of the spot to futures integration which we strive to bring to this industry. And we recognize that the onus is upon us as the industry treats the MCX prices as a domestic benchmark from where the spot has been derived all these years. And I'm happy to share that with the regulatory focus and so many different positive measures that the SEBI has brought about over the past few years, we continue to see the ETFs or the mutual funds which are benchmarked on commodity derivatives doing exceedingly well. We've seen foreign participant intermediaries in some of the segments of commodities, and as the industry demands, it may soon be there, subject to regulatory approval in the bullion side. And we are very hopeful to add the spot segment of the EGR into this industry mainstream once the taxation hurdles, which we are striving to work towards, are sorted. And I think at the end of it, I would just like to say that whenever we are not actually hedging, we end up speculating. So I would urge this industry to come forward and manage their price risk very, very actively in the exchange ecosystem, which is regulated and organized. And I wish this conference great success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shivanshu Mehta, for your sentiments and for your insights into MCX and for reiterating that the shared vision of MCX and the Indian industry is one and the same. I'd now like to invite Mr. Sriram Krishnan, Chief Business Development Officer, National Stock Exchange, to address us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sriram Krishnan.
Shri Shashi, Tharoor, other dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to the leadership of IIBS. We want to express our thanks to Shri Prithviraj Kothari and the senior colleagues from IIBS for all the efforts that they take for this industry. It's a privilege to address this distinguished gathering at the 11th India International Bullion Summit. IIBS has been instrumental in shaping India's bullion ecosystem, and forums like this are vital as India's financial markets enter a new phase of scale and sophistication. India's capital markets today stand at an inflection point. We have more than 12.5 crore unique investors participating in our markets. India's equity market capitalization has grown significantly over the past decade, positioning us amongst the largest equity markets globally. This depth of participation reflects growing financialization of savings and increasing trust in regulated market infrastructure. At NSE, this growth has been supported by robust technology architecture, capable of handling billions of orders daily, a resilient risk management framework, margin fungibility across segments that enhances capital efficiency, and one of the strongest clearing corporations globally, ensuring settlement integrity and systemic stability even during periods of heightened volatility. India today is one of the largest consumers of gold globally, importing roughly 700 to 900 tons annually, depending upon demand cycles. At the same time, our financial markets have witnessed extraordinary growth. What is particularly noteworthy is the structural shift we are witnessing in investor behavior. For the very first time, perhaps, gold ETF inflows are very close to mutual fund inflows, equity mutual fund inflows. In Jan 2026, we saw inflows into gold ETFs of about 240 billion rupees, which is very close to what we saw in equity mutual funds. This is not merely a cyclical shift. It signals that gold is increasingly being viewed not just as a consumption asset, but as a financial allocation and a portfolio hedge. The financialization of gold is accelerating. As this transformation unfolds, bullion derivatives must play a larger role in India's economic framework. For India's bullion ecosystem to mature and gain global relevance, three elements must work in tandem. We must strengthen domestic price discovery so that Indian gold prices reflect our own demand cycles, liquidity conditions, and macroeconomic realities. At the same time, the entire value chain, from refiners and importers to exporters and jewelers, must have access to efficient, transparent risk management tools that help manage volatility, currency fluctuations, and working capital pressures. Equally important is accessibility. As participation broadens, contract design must include everybody, allowing small and mid-sized jewelers, regional participants, and investors to hedge efficiently and participate meaningfully in regulated markets. When price discovery is robust, hedging is efficient, and participation is inclusive, bullion derivatives ecosystem becomes more deeper, more resilient, and globally competitive. In this context, we are pleased to share that the National Stock Exchange will be launching 10-gram gold futures contracts beginning 16th March. This product is designed to align with operational realities of many jewelers and regional bullion participants. As India advances towards becoming a developed economy, our bullion markets must match global standards in efficiency, governance, and innovation. This requires collaboration between exchanges, regulators, trade bodies like IIBS, and the industry participants. Together, we can build a bullion ecosystem where Indian price discovery gains greater global relevance, where every stakeholder, from artisan jewelers to institutional participants, has access to robust risk management tools. I congratulate IIBS, together with all my colleagues from NSC, for organizing this wonderful summit and look forward to strengthening our partnership in shaping the future of India's bullion markets. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sriram Krishnan, for your thought-provoking sentiments. I'd now like to invite Mr. David Tait, Chief Executive Officer, World Gold Council, to share his thoughts with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Tait. Over to you, sir.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my privilege to be here once again. And thank you for inviting me to speak again on what I believe is one of the most important topics shaping the future of the gold market, which is digitalization. I must apologize to both Manisha and Ashok, who have heard this speech a few days ago, for having to sit through it twice. My sincere apologies to you both. At the World Gold Council, we firmly believe that the future of the industry as it pertains to gold is digital. Digitalization is not just an evolution, it is a revolution that will unlock gold's full potential as an asset that promotes financial stability, protects wealth, and expands financial inclusion globally. In my view, digitalization will achieve three critical objectives. It will maximize access to gold as an asset class through innovative new products and platforms. It will maximize gold's potential by driving operational and market efficiencies, thereby unlocking entirely new use cases for gold. And crucially, it will maximize the transparency of the supply chain, which is critical. Despite India's pioneering spirit in digital innovation, and while we've seen a remarkable progress in end consumer and product development, the fundamental wholesale architecture underpinning the global gold market has simply not kept pace. This lag, I must admit, has unfortunately prompted many discerning investors to sidestep our asset. This imperative led the WGC to launch a project called Gold 247, our overarching digital transformation initiative. Gold 247 is specifically designed to address three core challenges: ensuring gold bar integrity, enhancing market accessibility, and achieving true fungibility across gold and gold markets. Its ultimate goal is to instill trust and transparency, thereby significantly lowering capital cost barriers to entry for investors worldwide. Let's begin with gold bar integrity. The LBMA and WGC have partnered to develop and implement an international system of gold bar integrity known as the GBI program. GBI aims to record all legitimate gold from every accredited responsible refinery onto an immutable blockchain-based database. This will allow buyers to clearly and instantaneously verify that any investment, bar, coin, or eventually even jewelry they purchase was sourced responsibly, refined reputably, and has only passed through the hands of legitimate actors. We are working with a Swiss technology company called Exedris to develop this database, and together with the LBMA, we have already made considerable progress. The LBMA has now brought all their good delivery list refiners onto the system. Furthermore, 26 of my 30 WGC member large-scale miners are on the system now. They, along with their refining partners, will soon be uploading all new mined production, creating a transparent record from miner to refiner for the very first time. This will dramatically enhance investor confidence in the immutability of the gold supply chain. This is ambitious, but absolutely necessary. As regulatory regimes tighten and investors rightly become more discerning, our industry must move towards total trust and transparency if we are to effectively compete for capital against other simpler, more transparent, and easily trusted asset classes. I am confident that the day will soon come when it will be unthinkable to buy gold without first checking its origin and integrity in the GBI database. My ambition is for this database to be open to all responsibly sourced gold, eventually including responsibly sourced artisanal gold. As I have said many times before, if you are holding gold for nefarious reasons outside this database, you will find the market for your gold will gradually vanish. I assure you, we will make this happen. Buyers of gold, be they traders, refiners, or fabricators, need to ensure the material they are purchasing has not contributed to criminality and is not tainted by poor environmental practices or human rights. Governments worldwide, including India's, should mandate due diligence across the entire gold supply chain. This problem may seem somewhat remote to some, but I assure you it is not. However, I am pleased to affirm that the vast majority of the gold market adheres to very high standards. Over $225 billion worth of gold is traded per day, and the physical gold underpinning most of this activity adheres to the highest ethical and environmental standards. Moving to the next pillar of our digital transformation, it's called wholesale digital gold. We have embarked on this program after a 4-year engagement between the Financial Markets Board, a branch of the Bank of England, and all banks active in the gold market. Its ambition is clear: to make our markets more transparent, trusted, and accessible through the use of digitalization. Wholesale digital gold is the next generation digital ecosystem in which wholesale financial market participants can trade, hold, and utilize gold as collateral. We are creating a digital representation of physical allocated gold, which will streamline and enhance pre- and post-trade processes. This represents an unprecedented opportunity for market participants, regulators, stakeholders, and even central banks to collaborate in developing a new digitalized market framework and an entirely new set of gold market asset classes. Initially focused on the global OTC markets, that is, the 400-ounce good delivery bar market, the WGC has brought together the major banks to introduce a digitalized gold market that will complement, not replace, our existing physical markets. However, I want to impress on everyone here today that supply chain transparency and the digital tracking of responsible gold from mine to market plays a pivotal role in differentiating responsibly mined gold from that which is not. To not take responsible sourcing seriously will severely damage your market and reputation. ASGM, or artisanal and small-scale gold mining, is blighted by the malign effects of organized crime, armed groups, corrupt politicians, and corrupt officials. To combat this, we need to ensure that law enforcement efforts are resourced to a level commensurate with the emerging scale of the global problem. Many organized crime groups are agile in adapting their business models, so government agencies working with the private sector need to be equally resilient. To drive formalization and ensure legitimate ASGM gold can enter the formal supply chain, we are implementing 3 interlinked interventions. The first is the rollout of thousands of processing plants that eliminate mercury, increase gold yields to the miner, and incentivize miners towards formalization. The deploying of origin verification technology, ensuring that only responsibly mined ore is produced, and working with responsible buyers, including central banks in many nations, to increase the legitimate offtake of responsibly produced ASGM gold. Whilst the WGC is working tirelessly on the ground to implement new mechanisms of formalization that both reward miners fairly and increase formalization, there will always be an outlet for irresponsibly produced gold, unless governments around the world implement clear, enforceable, responsible sourcing standards. These standards should be harmonized, building upon the baseline of OECD due diligence regulations. So let me further explain. Wholesale digital gold effectively builds a third pillar that sits alongside and complements what you are accustomed to, i.e. allocated and unallocated gold. This initiative is 100% industry-led, with the WGC's role being to facilitate and remove barriers to adoption. To this end, we have continued heavy engagement with the trading, legal, and digital technology teams across all gold trading banks and top industry custodians. Wholesale digital gold will bring new capabilities to these banks, their clients, their counterparties, and the broader gold market by enabling the ownership and transfer of fractions of allocated gold bars in an insolvency remote fashion via modern infrastructure with reduced operational risks. Crucially, as I previously mentioned, it will also allow for the utilization of digital gold as practical collateral for the very first time. We are working closely with these core banks of the London market who have committed to being Q1 pilot participants. The pilot will demonstrate precisely how gold bars are loaded into the digital ecosystem and then utilized as collateral with legally binding transactions. The Wholesale Digital Gold Platform Rulebook has been drafted and we look forward to its conclusion. This will be an enormous change to the global gold markets and enable many people to participate in this market. It will open many, many doors to many of you in India and throughout the rest of the world. It will enable the creation of many other financial products that you as a nation will also be able to participate in. It is a huge structural shift in the London and global gold markets, and I encourage you to please follow us on the WGC website. India has a great opportunity. It is one of the world leaders in gold and has an opportunity to lead the world in responsibly sourced gold. This is the thing of the future. Younger generations will not tolerate irresponsibly sourced gold, and India has a chance to set an example, as it has done in so many other things, for the future of the gold market. I urge you all, please, to take up this mantle, and thank you very much for allowing me to come here and talk to you again today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. David Tait, for your insights into the World Gold Council and for your support to the industry in India. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite Mr. Jignesh Shah, mentor and coach IGM India Gold Metaverse, founder MCX, DGCX, IEX, SMX, MCX-SX, ODIN. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jignesh Shah.
Respected Chief Guest Shashi Tharoor ji, Prithviraj Kothari ji, Mrs. Kamboj, Mr. David Tait, Shivanshu Mehta, Sriram Krishnan, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to recognize जिससे मैंने गोल्ड का स्पेलिंग सीखा है, गोल्ड. पृथ्वीराज जी, हरीश पावानी, I recognize the presence of Ramesh Tangwali ji, Vasu Bhai, and all of you from whom I have learned gold. So first of all, a big salute to all of you. Before I speak on the things, and Mr. Tharoor, I will keep it to just 3 minutes, but for for audience to know, मेरा दो observation है, because we have all gathered to listen to him. But जो उनके बारे में दो observation है मैं share करता हूँ. I also recognize presence of Harish Dedia, one of my dearest friend. Now Tharoor जी के बारे में. Tharoor साहब आपके लिए कुछ है? He is in the message. I'm telling audience about you, and from there I will tell you about the audience, the people who are arriving. Tharoor जी का इंग्लिश इतना बेहतरीन है कि ब्रिटिशर्स को भी इनके पास इंग्लिश सीखना पड़ेगा. Outstanding. I don't think anyone in India can match his flair, style, the depth of the language, matchless. So I can say one. But उसके ऊपर का एक recognition बोलता हूँ. Mr. Tharoor ने ब्रिटिश लंदन में he gave a lecture कि ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी यहाँ से कितना माल लेके गया है. Okay. And when he narrated that, our honorable Prime Minister also complimented him. Excellent speech. Anytime if you go down, Mr. Tharoor का वो speech सुन लीजिए. Outstanding. And Tharoor साहब एक और भी आपको बताना है. ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी ने अभी bankruptcy फाइल किया है. And I think मैं और पृथ्वी भाई joint bidding करने वाले हैं उसका. Just 2 days back, East India company has filed for bankruptcy. I know bidding will go up now, but मैं और पृथ्वीराज जी उसको bidding करेंगे. और वो ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी वापस लाएंगे, owned by Indians. So मोदी जी ने इतनी तारीफ की थी उनको इनके बारे में वो टाइम पे. It was just fantastic. And थरूर साहब अभी ऑडियंस के बारे में आपको बोल रहा हूँ. Just रमेश थंगमल्ली जी, Wali ji, he is just in Tamil Nadu. In just last 1 year, he has done turnover of 7,500 crore. That is the power of India. तो आप ये community को मौका देंगे ना, तो पूरा gold इधर shift हो सकता है. That is the power of this community. And the entire bullion industry, I am really thankful to all of you. Without taking much time, because we are here for Tharoor ji, I will just give only one statistic, which will really make all of us proud. It is as follows. मेरा inauguration के बाद lecture है Beat the Bitcoin. Now I'll give you statistic of just gold and Bitcoin, which will give all of us a very great lot of happiness. 1 year return in gold. Last year का तो है ही है, आपको सबको पता है. Is 80%. थोड़ा आगे पीछे होगा, but बड़े बड़े देशों में छोटी छोटी बातें होते रहती है. तो आप लोग मेरे को correct मत करना to the decimal point. 80% is gold return 1 year. Nifty 10.2. Stock market should think about. Sensex 7.9. Bitcoin minus 27.9. 3 years, gold is 176%. Nifty 40%. Sensex 34%. And Bitcoin is 212. And now comes the real 10 year. We all want 10-year long-term return. And it's all good. Now hear it. Why we have to beat Bitcoin? 10 year में गोल्ड का रिटर्न है 352, 352, निफ्टी 191%, बिटकॉइन 17,000%. दैट्स अ रिटर्न ऑफ द बिटकॉइन. बट नॉर्मल सोसाइटी को वोलेटिलिटी पसंद नहीं है. नॉर्मल सोसाइटी को वोलेटिलिटी नहीं पसंद है और गोल्ड की वोलेटिलिटी ऑलमोस्ट सेफेस्ट है, एक्सेप्ट फॉर लास्ट 1 year. लास्ट ईयर वोलेटिलिटी इतना ज्यादा हो गया, इतना ज्यादा हो गया. इनफैक्ट कल्याण ज्वेलर के थे राजेश भाई, यस्टरडे ही वाज टेलिंग मी कि जिग्नेश भाई ऐसा कुछ प्रोडक्ट डिजाइन करो कि गोल्ड का ये वोलेटिलिटी किसी को नहीं जम रहा है, ना बुलियन डीलर को जम रहा है, ना कस्टमर को जम रहा है, ना ज्वेलर्स को जम रहा है. इट इज किलिंग ऑल ऑफ अस. सो वी हैव टू फाइंड अ सॉल्यूशन jointly all of us together whereby we can really not have this volatility and a acceptance by society. And then also we should devise a product which should be beating the Bitcoin or the digital innovation. That is what I want to say. So in that lecture, I am telling you that product design so that all of you will come. But here now, I thank all of you, and Shashi Tharoor ji, we want to listen to you and then pick up from you because we are going to beat the Western world in the gold. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jignesh Shah. Ladies and gentlemen, we've all looked forward to hearing from Dr. Shashi Tharoor, our chief guest. The time is now, the moment is here. Few figures in contemporary Indian public life combine erudition eloquence, and executive experience as compellingly as our chief guest, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, a four-term member of parliament representing Thiruvananthapuram in the Lok Sabha. Dr. Shashi Tharoor stands at the rare confluence of literature, diplomacy, and the politics of democracy. Equally at home in the corridors of power and the world of ideas, he has fashioned a career in public life that is as intellectually vibrant as it is institutionally distinguished. His initial foray as a diplomat saw him rise to the rank of Under Secretary General in the United Nations. Returning to India, he served as Minister of State for Human Resource Development, Minister of State for External Affairs, and currently serves as chairperson on the Standing Committee of External Affairs. He has also chaired key committees on chemicals and fertilizers and on information technology. The author of 27 books spanning fiction and non-fiction, his celebrated work, An Era of Darkness, earned him the Sahitya Akademi Award for English non-fiction. His literary brilliance has also been recognized with numerous other accolades, including the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman, the Commonwealth Writers' Prize, and the Crossword Lifetime Achievement Award. Scholar, statesman, wordsmith, Dr. Shashi Tharoor remains a singular presence in India's public life, a parliamentarian with diplomat's poise, a minister with a historian's depth, and an orator whose command over language is matched only by the expanse of his ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, to address us, I give you our chief guest, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Honorable Member of Parliament, Lok Sabha. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Shashi Tharoor.
Thank you all very much, and thanks in particular for that very generous introduction. Distinguished guests, I won't mention everyone's name, you've heard from them already. Leaders of the bullion and jewelry industry, policymakers, economists, scholars, whoever you all are, and I can see a wonderful room full of you. This 11th India International Bullion Summit is occurring at a moment of transition in the global economy. This is not simply an industry engagement. It is, I'd say, part of a wider conversation in the world, in our country too, about value, stability, and trust in an increasingly uncertain world. We're gathering at an interesting moment for the global economy. The assumptions that shaped financial markets for decades are being questioned. Supply chains are being reconfigured, and the architecture of international finance is under visible strain. In such a context, commodities that once appeared predictable have acquired renewed strategic importance. Gold in particular, as you've all been saying just now, has re-entered policy conversations in ways that would have seemed unlikely not very long ago. What was once dismissed as a relic of an earlier monetary age is now being reassessed as a store of value, a hedge against uncertainty, and in some quarters, even a sign of shifting geopolitical confidence. In that sense, gold is no longer confined to the trading floors or the reserve vaults. It sits at the intersection of economics, geopolitics, and culture. Its price movement reflects not only market sentiment, but deeper questions about confidence in institutions and in the global system itself. The modern international monetary system was constructed in part to reduce humanity's dependence on gold. After the devastation of the Second World War, world leaders gathered at Bretton Woods and created institutions that would govern global finance for generations. The International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, were established to stabilize currencies and promote reconstruction. Later, the global trading framework evolved from the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade to the World Trade Organization, embedding Montesquieu's idea of du commerce, the belief that trade softens nations, that economic interdependence reduces the incentive for war, and that commerce civilizes the conduct of nations. At the center of this architecture, however, stood the US dollar. It was initially anchored to gold, but over time it became the anchor itself. It abandoned the gold standard. Oil was priced in dollars. Contracts were denominated in dollars. Central banks accumulated dollar reserves. The dollar evolved into the operating system of the global economy. For decades, this framework delivered extraordinary expansion in global trade and capital mobility. Supply chains stretched across continents. Financial flows moved at unprecedented speed. The prevailing assumption was elegant. Nations that traded together would remain invested in each other's stability. Markets would discipline excess. The ledger would replace the sword. History, however, rarely permits elegant theories to endure unchallenged. The global financial crisis of 2008 was the first warning bell. It wasn't just a market correction. It exposed deep structural fragilities within the global financial system. Institutions that had championed deregulation were forced into extraordinary state support. In response, the US Federal Reserve and other major central banks reduced policy rates to near zero and expanded their balance sheets on a scale previously unimaginable. Quantitative easing became normalized. Trillions of dollars were injected into financial markets to preserve stability. Then came the COVID pandemic, which intensified this monetary expansion. As economies shut down, stimulus measures expanded further, and the Federal Reserve's balance sheet surged dramatically within months. Liquidity was abundant, borrowing costs collapsed, fiscal deficits widened across advanced economies. These actions prevented economic collapse around the world, but they also altered the monetary landscape. When global demand recovered after the pandemic, supply chains still remained constrained, then inflation returned with a force not seen in decades. Across the major economies, price levels surged, eroding purchasing power and unsettling households and investors alike. The episode reopened a fundamental question. If money can just be created at scale to address crises, what ultimately anchors its long-term value? Now, at the same time, while that question was being asked, geopolitical events reshaped perceptions of financial neutrality. The freezing of Russian sovereign foreign exchange reserves following the Ukraine conflict marked a turning point. Whatever your political position, the message to markets was unmistakable. Reserve assets held in foreign jurisdictions could be rendered inaccessible through strategic or political decisions. Sanctions regimes expanded. Financial channels were restricted. Earlier measures involving countries such as Venezuela and Iran had already demonstrated the reach of dollar-based enforcement mechanisms. Now the implications were unmistakable for major powers as well, including, of course, Russia. Interdependence, once viewed as stabilizing, began to be reassessed as leverage because interdependence could be weaponized. Now, in such an environment defined by elevated inflation, expansive monetary policy, strategic sanctions, and growing economic fragmentation, the search for assets insulated from political discretion and monetary dilution became inevitable. It is precisely at such moments in history that gold re-enters the conversation, not as nostalgia, but as strategy. Gold is rising not because the world is changing, but because the assumptions that sustained flat stability are being fundamentally questioned. Central banks across the world have been increasing their gold allocations as part of strategic reserve diversification. Emerging markets have led this trend, and central bank holdings have risen sharply as reserves are rebalanced away from dollar-heavy portfolios. The Reserve Bank of India, for example, has increased its gold holdings to 879.58 tons as of March 2025. It must have gone up since then, up nearly a third from 5 years earlier, mid-2020. Today, gold already accounts for about 12% of India's net foreign assets, and that's up from 8.3% just a year ago, reflecting both rising prices and the bank's decision to conduct strategic accumulation of gold. Central banks accumulate gold not only because of tradition, in fact, not because of tradition at all, certainly not because of civilizational memory or cultural poetry or whatever, but because gold carries no counterparty risk, cannot be frozen remotely by somebody sitting in Washington or somewhere else. It remains under sovereign control. That's an important factor that people have not fully appreciated in the past. Modern investment avenues have also broadened how institutions and individuals access gold beyond physical bullion. Gold ETFs provide liquid, professionally managed exposure to gold prices without the need for physical storage. Sovereign gold bonds issued by the government combine the price performance of gold with interest income, helping domestic investors save while reducing import demand. Digital gold, purchased electronically and securely stored in regulated vaults, has greatly lowered barriers to entry for new investors. Together, these instruments democratize gold ownership, mobilize domestic savings, enhance portfolio allocation flexibility, and cement gold's role not just as adornment, but as strategic wealth preservation. So if you look at currencies, dollar, euro, rupee, whatever, they're all instruments of sovereign policy. Their value depends on a government's fiscal discipline, monetary credibility, people's confidence in that government's institutions. They provide liquidity in a world of elevated debt, expansionary spending, and periodic competitive devaluations. Yet, by their nature, fiat currencies are debt. They carry counterparty risk, they can be printed at will by governments, and are vulnerable to dilution over time through inflation, through monetary expansion, through financial repression, through sanctions. Now, in such cycles, holders of nominal assets bear the cost. The US dollar, for example, has seen its purchasing power steadily eroded around the globe, as US debt has now surpassed $38.6 trillion. Can you imagine? Their debt is almost 10 times our entire GDP. Fiat requires trust in institutions. Gold is trust without institutions. So gold operates outside these risks I've been describing to you. Gold settles transactions without creating debt. It carries no counterparty risk. It cannot be printed or devalued, does not rely on the credibility of any issuer or any particular issuing government. History offers a sobering lesson. While most fiat currencies are gradually weakened rather than destroyed outright, gold has endured for millennia as a store of value, preserving purchasing power in ways that currencies cannot. Now, within the shifting landscape, the BRICS countries have been actively cultivating a more diversified monetary system that reduces reliance on the US dollar. Member states are not only increasing local currency trade settlements, but also exploring new financial instruments and digital currency frameworks that support this diversification. China, for example, has recently introduced incentives for holders of the digital yuan, a move designed to strengthen its role in international transactions and accelerate its broader de-dollarization agenda. This initiative complements broader gold accumulation strategies by several other BRICS members who see precious metals both as a hedge and as a foundation for financial neutrality in an era of geopolitical risk and currency concentration. While the dollar remains dominant, These steps reflect a strategic hedging mood, a trend that reflects also a gradual shift towards alternatives in global finance. Traditional forms of wealth preservation now face structural constraints. Real estate, now considered a preferred store of wealth for Indian households. In fact, it's long been, for lots of Indians, the safest place to invest, has a problem. It's capital intensive, especially as real estate prices have kept going up so much. It's deeply illiquid, and it's increasingly unaffordable in major urban centers like this one. Who on earth can afford a flat in a prestigious address in Mumbai? Now, in those circumstances, equities are turned to, but equities, while capable of generating substantial wealth over long cycles, remain highly sentiment-driven, susceptible to rapid swings in liquidity-driven expansions and contractions. Whereas by contrast, gold and silver provide a very stable foundation. Their resilience is evident in historical crises. During the 2008 financial crisis that I already mentioned, when you may remember the Nifty 50 declined by more than 50%, at that time gold rose by roughly 30% in rupee terms. Over the past decade, as we've already heard, gold has delivered approximately 16% annual returns in Indian rupee terms, a performance comparable to equities, but with far lower systemic risk than equities. Silver has similarly offered robust returns, especially lately, reinforcing the case for the precious metals you deal in as instruments of strategic stability rather than speculation. Now, the modern investment landscape, we have to look at that, has been reshaped by digital assets. Cryptocurrencies and stable coins have emerged as new avenues, promising decentralization, digital innovation, and rapid returns. Bitcoin may be seen as the sort of digital gold for the optimist, but gold, I think, remains the analog insurance for the realist. Tangible, physically held, independent of servers or code or algorithmic consensus, gold's demand is broad, spanning central banks, investors, households, and industry. This diversity confers resilience upon gold. Cryptocurrencies, by contrast, continue to behave largely as sentiment-driven risk assets, surging in periods of liquidity and contracting sharply when risk appetite fades. Just look at this year's performance in cryptocurrency, last year and this year, and you'll already see what I'm talking about. Dramatic increase, dramatic collapse. They represent innovation, yet they have not still established themselves as reliable hedges against systemic stress. Of course, perhaps the time has come to consider a digital currency backed by gold instead. It's certainly an option worth examining in more detail. We were just talking about this on the stage, Sriram and I. Could there be such a thing as a digital currency that's tied to gold? That could be something worth considering. In uncertain times, investors do not merely seek upside, they seek stability. See, gold and silver offer a foundation tested across cycles of inflation, across currency crises, across market corrections. The enduring appeal is reflected in recent market behavior. Strong returns have attracted global investor attention, even as elevated prices have tempered traditional jewelry demand for some households. Rather than indicating a retreat, this trend points to a transformation in perception and channel. Investors are increasingly attracted to allocating capital to structured, professionally managed gold exposure, such as gold exchange trade funds. I talked about ETFs earlier. And this shift is not just marginal. It reflects a conscious recognition that precious metals, unlike other asset classes, combine performance with strategic stability. And yet, India's role in the global gold economy extends beyond consumption. We're not merely a passive recipient of global flows. India is a creator of value, a manufacturer, an exporter, a nation that takes the world's most precious metal and returns it, transformed, cut, polished, elevated, shaped, designed into products that command premium pricing in discerning international markets. And so our relationship with gold as Indians is not episodic, it's structural. In 2025, the latest year for which I could get figures, India's household gold wealth was estimated, I think I mentioned this earlier, at the staggering $3.8 trillion, which is about 90% of our country's GDP. It's of course, following a 62% surge in valuation last year. This extraordinary scale underscores how deeply gold functions, not merely as an adornment for the ladies in our lives, but as a store of value, an informal savings mechanism, and an intergenerational economic safeguard right across Indian society. Now, yet for all this promise, there remains a tension at the heart of India's gold and silver story. The entire precious metals narrative involves a tension between what India consumes and what India produces. See, India accounts for roughly 15 to 16% of global gold demand. That's why we're importing over 800 tons annually, making gold our second largest import item by value after petroleum. Silver imports itself surged 129% between April and December of 2025, last year, contributing to, of course, a much higher import bill for the country and widening our trade deficit. Now, this reliance on imports, because our demand exceeds our local supply, represents a strategic vulnerability for a nation with over 500 million tons of estimated gold resources beneath our soil, yet a domestic production of barely 1.5 tons per year. I repeat those numbers for you. The estimate is we have 500 million tons of gold buried under Mata Bharat ki dharti. And we are producing how much? We're extracting how much? 1.5 tons a year. That's crazy. There's something wrong with those numbers. Of course, the reasons are well known but deserve emphasis. Excessive regulatory clearances. Now, I know I'm sounding like a member of the opposition, but it's true. Bureaucratic delays. All of this makes project timelines unpredictable, and returns are very difficult to model. Deposits are often located in ecologically sensitive zones, so you're getting environmental clearance will not be easy for gold mining. Overlapping environmental and local jurisdiction approvals slow progress. Import duties on specialized mining equipment inflates capital costs, and exploration inherently requires long gestation periods and patient capital, which of course are not resources easy to secure. Who is going to sink their money in for such a long time? Of course, if you had sunk money into gold mining 5 or 10 years ago, you'd be sitting very pretty today. But then 2020 hindsight is not always available, right? Policy and regulatory design have simply not kept pace with India's ambitions. Now, addressing these structural constraints is not merely a sectoral concern. It is a strategic national priority. Even a partial reduction in gold import dependence would strengthen our country's economy, would strengthen our current account, it would conserve foreign exchange, it would create high-quality employment in mineral-rich states, it would reduce exposure to international price volatility. Why don't we do it? Why doesn't our government wake up to the extraordinary need that I have just outlined to you? All it requires is streamlined clearances, which is in any case a man-made problem that human beings can solve, fast-track mechanisms for strategic mineral projects, rationalized duties on mining equipment, and a regulatory philosophy that recognizes gold and silver and other precious metals as strategic assets for India's long-term economic architecture. This capability exists. We can do it. The opportunity is real. What remains is government policy, alignment between policy intent, regulatory design, and of course, industry execution. Alignment in public policy, I've realized after 17 years as a member of parliament, is often harder to mine than gold itself. But let's face it, at the same time, the global economic landscape continues to evolve at an unprecedented pace. Inflation has returned with intensity across major economies. fueled, of course, by expansive monetary policy, pandemic-related fiscal stimulus, and ongoing supply chain disruptions. Central banks, particularly the US Federal Reserve, have navigated uncharted territory with aggressive interest rate adjustments, balance sheet expansions, and liquidity interventions. These actions have prevented immediate collapse, but they have also reshaped the parameters of risk and return, compelling investors and policymakers alike to reassess, thank you, the anchors of financial stability. In such an environment, the appeal of assets that preserve value, insulated from discretionary policy, has only grown stronger. Within the shifting landscape, the BRICS countries are asserting themselves as architects of a more diversified global monetary system. Member states are increasingly exploring local currency settlement arrangements, alternative trading mechanisms, bilateral financial agreements that reduce reliance on the US dollar. Again, China, I mentioned, has accelerated the internationalization of the renminbi, and politically that does raise some questions for us in India. I'm not welcoming this development, just observing it. India has operationalized increasingly rupee-based trade settlements with multiple partners, and particularly when countries are sanctioned, like Russia and Iran. You can't trade with them in dollars anyway. You could certainly work out a rupee payment arrangement. Now, these developments do not signal the collapse of the dollar, don't get me wrong, but they do mark a conscious strategy to hedge against concentrated risk and to create some resilience within the national economies of the BRICS countries. Now, remember, gold has been long a neutral store of value, and that's why it sits at the center of these calculations. Its strategic significance has been magnified by the kind of geopolitical and monetary uncertainty we're seeing in the world today. I mean, the country is looking at an environment where there could be war at any moment between the US and Iran, with Israel getting involved. There already seems to be war next door between Pakistan and Afghanistan. China might embark on war anytime with Taiwan. I mean, this is now a world of great turbulence and uncertainties. And in this circumstance, I think we have to understand China's sustained accumulation of gold reserves in this context. It's not merely their portfolio diversification, it's a strategic counterweight to an international monetary system still overwhelmingly anchored to the US dollar at a time when China-US relations are plunged into uncertainty. But we have to understand at the same time the landscape of value and trust is shifting. A new generation of assets is emerging, which are digital, programmable, globally interoperable, and a lot of people are rethinking how we think about money, how we think about value, not just in India, but around the world. Now, for Indians, I think it's fair to say that for millennia, gold has been our anchor of value. It's been a tangible hedge against economic turbulence, against currency volatility, and of course, against the kind of geopolitical shocks that might be awaiting us imminently. Its scarcity, durability, universal recognition allowed it to serve not merely as wealth, but a stabilizing instrument in financial and social systems. Even today, central banks and households turn to gold when confidence in fiat currencies wavers, reflecting its enduring role both as a store of value and as a signal of trust in the wider global order. Yet the financial landscape is evolving at a pace gold cannot match. Stable coins, digital assets backed by currencies or cryptocurrency reserves promise settlement in seconds, cross-border interoperability with the pulse of a key on a computer, machine-level programmability, obviously that conventional money or gold can't achieve. And so institutional adoption of these is rising. Regulators are codifying legitimacy. Even our Reserve Bank is looking at all of this. And India's own policy calculus is shifting to accommodate these instruments. The lesson is clear. Just as gold anchored confidence in physical markets, crypto and stable coins may anchor it in a digital economy where speed, transparency, and trust are inseparable. Now, India's own financial ecosystem positions it in many ways well to handle this transformation. We already have digital infrastructure, public digital infrastructure, such as the UPI, the United Payments Interface, Aadhaar, all of us have an Aadhaar in our pockets, account aggregators already reshaping inclusion. And so India has been able to demonstrate in recent years that trust, scale, technological penetration can all coexist in a country that till recently was considered just a developing country. Today, we are in many ways, in terms of digital public infrastructure, a world leader. Given that, then stablecoins could extend this advantage, bringing and bridging domestic finance with global liquidity while reducing, of course, costs and settlement times. But I can tell you adoption is not going to be automatic. You need regulatory clarity, institutional participation, interoperability, particularly across blockchains, across different cryptocurrencies. All of these will determine whether India merely participates in the new digital economy with a certain amount of caution and distance, or whether households and industry. Whether in sovereign reserves, the ETFs I've mentioned, digital gold, jewelry. Gold embodies the intersection of culture, economics, and geopolitics. As India is gradually strengthening its position in global trade, it's refining its domestic mining policy, we all hope, and it's adapting to emerging financial technologies, the nation has the opportunity to not only secure its own economic resilience, but also shape the evolution of the global precious metals market for decades to come. I'll start wrapping up because my time seems to be up, but I have a few minutes more since you'd asked me to speak for at least half an hour. Shall I carry on for a few minutes more? Another 7-8 minutes, yeah? So the liberal international economic order that emerged after World War II, already strained by the global financial crisis and the pandemic, is no longer evolving incrementally. It is being fundamentally reconfigured. This is not a cyclical downturn in globalization. It really is a structural transformation. There's economic nationalism, geopolitical rivalry, supply chain reconfiguration, and strategic de-risking, which are not passing phases. They will not disappear with a change of government in Washington or a new round of negotiations at the WTO. It is really what I've been describing in other speeches on geopolitics as a new world disorder, a system defined by more actors, more competing interests, more fragmented regulatory frameworks, and fewer universally accepted rules. I wrote an article last week where I said, now it looks like in the world, the only rule is that there are no rules anymore. The global marketplace is beginning to resemble a great bazaar. It's not just an orderly framework of multilateral governance anymore. Now, bazaar, as we all know, can be vibrant and creative, but it's also unpredictable. It rewards agility, diversification, bargaining, positioning in assets that retain value across regimes. And at the heart of this lies a paradox: interdependence without trust. Economies remain deeply interconnected, but these very linkages are now increasingly perceived as vulnerabilities rather than stabilizers. Supply chains are binding rivals together. Financial systems intertwine competitors. Technology ecosystems overlap. And trust has eroded. Capital in such a world will continue to explore new frontiers, from digital assets to emerging technological ecosystems. And as I said, each of these deserves attention, but when it comes to deep civilizational trust, the kind that underpins a true store of value, I would argue that gold and silver remain unparalleled. Not because they're old, but because they're enduring. Across centuries, we all know currencies have been debased, empires have faded, ideologies have shifted, but precious metals have persisted. And so the geopolitical shifts we're witnessing, the weaponization of finance that we're witnessing, the strategic reserve diversification I've talked about, the search for assets beyond strategic reach, all of these are not, I fear, temporary disruptions. They are structural reconfigurations of global power. In such a world, neutral reserve assets gain prominence, and gold stands at the center of the recalibration that is taking place today. Now, at the same time, the technologies shaping the world of global growth, artificial intelligence, clean energy systems, all of these will reinforce in some ways the industrial relevance of precious metals such as gold, silver, and platinum. Because precious metals are sitting at the intersection of two defining forces: geopolitical fragmentation and technological transformation. Where they meet, that's where metals are valuable. Because these are meeting points of uncertainty and innovation, of fragmentation and reinvention. And in those intersections, history tends to reward those who are not merely prepared to adapt, but who have the courage to lead. And for us in India, this is not an abstract moment. And that's why I don't want you to think I'm spouting theories. I'm anchored very much in the realities of our economics. I see this as a strategic inflection point. As the world recalibrates through shifting monetary regimes, evolving central bank policies, the gradual diversification away from dollar dominance, and the rise of new financial technologies, I think we in India have a rare opportunity to align our domestic strengths with global transformation. The question is not whether the world economy is changing, it's whether we will shape the terms on which it changes. Gold, as I've been arguing throughout the speech, is not just a passive store of wealth. It can be an active instrument of strategy. It can reflect how a nation like India can hedge against inflation, how central banks can respond to monetary excess, how an economy can navigate recessionary pressure, and how, as a geopolitical actor, we can insulate ourselves from systemic risk. Alongside it, emerging instruments from digital assets to stable coins are fine. They're redefining speed, access, participation in financial systems, but they do not displace the need for an anchor like gold or silver. They merely actually give us a chance to reinforce the arguments I've been making. Now, I really will wrap up. Let me conclude. India's role must be conceived across multiple dimensions. As a major consumer, we shape demand. As a global leader in gems and jewelry, we shape value addition. Through trade agreements, we shape access to markets. And we've got a lot more trade agreements this year, as you know. And through policy reform, which I'm waiting for the government to do, particularly in mining, refining, and financial instruments, we have the capacity, I only say capacity because it hasn't happened yet, to shape the very architecture of the precious metals ecosystem. The ambition must be clear, not merely to import and consume, but to integrate, to innovate, and to lead across the entire value chain. At a time when global supply chains are being reconfigured, when trust in financial systems is being reassessed, and when capital is seeking resilience as much as returns, India can position itself as a trusted node, a hub where physical assets, financial innovation, and regulatory credibility converge. This requires clarity of policy, consistency of execution, and confidence of vision. If the India Bullion and Jewelers Association Limited wants to do one thing to strengthen your own hands of all the people in this room, you need to go to the government and ask for these policy changes in the very context I have described to you today. The Sone ki Chidiya, the Swarna Bhumi, can return. Our society, our markets, our policy frameworks, and our investors have the capacity, the ambition, and the vision. I've just shared my vision with you to ensure that India not only navigates the new world disorder, but thrives within it, with precious metals at the heart of our strategy, our industry, and our legacy. Because above all, the story of gold is not merely about price or even about protecting ourselves. It is about trust across time, across systems, across civilizations. As we look ahead to a world defined by both disruption and possibility, India has the opportunity to anchor that trust, to shape that transition, and to ensure that in an age of uncertainty, we remain not only relevant, but decisive. Thank you for listening to me. Good luck with your conference. Jai Hind.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we have another round of applause for Dr. Shashi Tharoor? Thank you, Dr. Tharoor, for the depth and range of your insights and thought-provoking address delivered with such eloquence and panache. And thank you, sir, for your gracious presence here that elevated and inspired everyone here. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank all our dignitaries who have graced this inaugural function. Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Honorable Member of the Lok Sabha, Thiruvananthapuram. Mr. David Tait, Chief Executive Officer, World Gold Council. Mr. Jignesh Shah, Mentor and Coach, India Gold Metaverse IGM and Founder. Mr. Sriram Krishnan and Mr. Shivanshu Mehta. Thank you so much.